The 6th of April, Monday morning. Buddha Dhamma. Today we are in Chapter 19 on the Four Noble Truths, Ariya Satya in Pali language. This is the truth of suffering, dukkha, the truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya, the truth of the end of suffering, nirodha, and the truth of the path of the end of suffering, magga. 19.1 Introduction. 19.2 Role and the significance of the Four Noble Truths. 19.3 The meaning of the Four Noble Truths. This is from page 1889 to 1897. Chapter 19. Buddha Dhamma, compiled by Somdet Prabuddha Gosacharya. English name, P.A. Payutto. 19.1 Introduction. The teachings on the Four Noble Truths encompasses the Buddha's teaching in its entirety. The entire subject matter discussed in the Buddha Dhamma is encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths, and therefore this teaching acts as the summary and conclusions to this book. There are some important points to understand in reference to the Four Noble Truths. The role and the significance of the Four Noble Truths. Friends, just as the footprints of any animal that walks can be placed within the elephant's footprint, and so too the elephant's footprints is declared the chief among them because of its great size, so too of all wholesome states that can be included in the Four Noble Truths. So long, monks, bhikkhu, as my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths, as they really are in their 3 phases and their 12 aspects, was not thoroughly purified in this way, I did not claim to have awakening to the unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment. Bhikkhu monks, it is through not understanding, not penetrating the Four Noble Truths, that I was well as you have for a long time run on and wandered around samsara vata, the cycle of birth and death. Then the Blessed One, the Tathagata, gave the householder Upali a gradual instruction, that is, the talk on giving, dana, the talk on virtue, sila, the talk on heavens, the devata realms. He explained the danger, the degradation, the defilement in sensual pleasure, the kamagunas, and the blessing of renunciation of a brahmacharya. When he knew that the householder Upali's mind was ready, receptive, free from hindrances, delighted and confident, he expounded to him the teaching special to the Buddhas: dukkha, suffering; samudaya, its origin; nirodha, its cessation; and magga, the path. A person lives the holy life under the Tathagata, the Blessed One, in order to know, to see, to realize, to experience for himself, to attain that which is not yet known, seen, realized, and experienced, and attained. That is, this is dukkha. This is samudaya. This is the end of dukkha, nirodha. This is the path, magga, leading to the end of dukkha. One of the unique characteristics of Buddhism is that it only teaches those truths which can be applied to benefit one's life. The Four Noble Truths are of direct benefit to people's lives. Buddhism does not concern itself with abstract truths that have not been practical. Oh, let me rephrase that. That has not have no practical value. For this reason, Gautama Buddha did not concern himself and waste his time with metaphysical debates. If anyone should say thus, I will not lead the holy life under the Blessed One until the Blessed One declares to me the world is eternal or not eternal, the world is finite or the world is infinite. The life principle and the body are the same, or the life principle in one thing and the body another. A being exists after death or does not exist. A being both exists and does not exist after death. Or being neither exists nor does not exist after death. That would still remain undeclared by the Tathagata. And meanwhile, that person would die. Suppose a man were wounded by an arrow, thickly smeared with poison, and his friends and companions, his kinsmen and his relatives, brought a skilled surgeon to treat him. The man would say, I will not let the surgeon pull out this arrow until I know whether the man who wounded me was a noble or a Hindu Brahmin or a merchant or a laborer, until I know the name and the clan of the man who wounded me. Whether he was tall or short or middling weight, whether he was dark, fair-skinned, or swarthy, whether he lives in such a village or a town or city, I would not let the surgeon pull out this arrow until I know whether the bow that wounded me was long, a bow, or a crossbow, whether the bowstring or the wounded me are made with fiber or bamboo or sinew or hemp or bark, whether the shaft that wounded me was a wild or cultivated, until I know with that kind of feathers the shaft that wounded me was fitted, whether those of a virtue or a adjunct stork or the hawk or a peacock or some kind of bird, until I know that what kind of sinew the shaft wounded me was bound, whether it was an ox or a buffalo or of a monkey, or until I know what kind of arrowhead that was wounded me. Before being able to know all of this, the man would surely die. So too, if anyone should say thus, I will not lead the holy life, meanwhile that person would die. Malunkaya putra. If there was a view, the world is eternal. The holy life cannot be lived. And if there is this view, the world is not eternal. The holy life cannot be lived. Whether there is a view, the world is eternal, or the view that the world is not eternal, there is still birth. There is still aging. There is still death. There is still sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair. It is this destruction of these forms of dukkha I prescribed here and now. Therefore remember what I have left undeclared as undeclared, and remember what I have declared as declared. And what have I have left undeclared? The world is eternal. The world is not eternal. Why I have left that undeclared? Because it is unbeneficial. It does not belong to the fundamentals of the holy life. It does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to release, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbida, nibbana, nirvana. That is why I left it undeclared. And what I have declared, I have declared. This is dukkha, suffering. This is the origin of dukkha, samudaya. This is the cessation of suffering, nirodha. This is the way to leading to the cessation of suffering, magga. And why I have declared that? Because it is beneficial. It belongs to the fundamentals of the holy life. It leads to disenchantment, to dispassion, to release, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbida, nibbana, nirvana. That is why I have declared it. On another occasion, Gautama Buddha said that The things that he has realized are numerous, but the things that he has taught are few. This is because he only teaches those things that are of benefit and can be used to solve problems. Specifically, these beneficial things are the Four Noble Truths. In Pali language, it's called Arya Satya. Gautama Buddha was once staying in Simsapa Grove, near the city of Kosambi in ancient Bharat. At that time, he picked up a small handful of nara tree leaves and said to the monks, "Bhikkhu monks, what do you estimate? Which is more numerous? These few nara leaves that I hold in my hand or those in the Simsa Grove overhead?" "Venerable sir, the few nara leaves that the Blessed One holds in his hands of a small amount, while those in the Simpasa Grove overhead are much more numerous. So too, Bhikkhu monks, the things I have directly known but have not taught you are numerous, while the things I have taught you are few. And why, Bhikkhu monks, have I not taught those many things? Because they are unbeneficial, irrelevant to the fundamentals of the holy life, and do not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to release, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbita, nibbana, nirvana. And what, Bhikkhu monks, have I taught? I have taught, this is dukkha, this is suffering, I have taught. This is the origin of dukkha, samudaya, I have taught. This is the cessation of dukkha, nirodha, I have taught. This is the way to cessation to dukkha, magga. And why have I taught this? Because it is beneficial, relevant to the fundamentals of the holy life. It leads to disenchantment, to dispassion, to release, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbita, nibbana, nirvana. Therefore, I have taught this. Therefore, Bhikkhu monks, you should make effort in order to understand according to the truth. This is dukkha. This is the origin of dukkha. This is the cessation of dukkha. This is the way to the cessation of dukkha. The Four Noble Truths are a vital teaching for both renunciant and lay people. Gautama Buddha therefore urged the monks to give teachings to the lay people so that they understand these truths. Bhikkhu monks, of whom you ought to give assistance, or of those who are receptive to the teaching, whether friends or colleagues, relatives or kinsmen, these you should engage and exhort to be settled and established in realization of the Arya Satya, the Four Noble Truths, as they really are. The meaning of the Four Noble Truths. These Four Noble Truths, Bhikkhu monks, are actually unerring, consistent. Therefore, they are called the Noble Truths. Bhikkhu monks, the Tathagata is the Noble One in the world with its Devatas, Maras, and Brahmas. In his generation with their ascetics and Brahmins, its Devatas and humans. Therefore, they are called Noble Truths because they are realized and revealed by Gautama Buddha, the Noble Ones. Bhikkhu monk, it is because he has fully awakened to these Four Noble Truths that they really are, that the Tathagata, the Arihat, the perfectly enlightened one, is actually called the Noble One. Referring to the passage in the Tipitaka and the path to purity, Visuddhi Magga, presents the four definitions of the Four Noble Truths as so. First, truths realized by the noble ones. Second, truth belonging to the noble ones. Third, truth leading to the state of the beings of the noble ones. And the fourth, truths that are actually actual and certain. The canonical explanations of the four truths are as follows. Now this, monks, is the noble truth of suffering. Birth is dukkha. Aging is dukkha. Illness is dukkha. Death is dukkha. Encounters what is displeasing is dukkha. Separation from what is pleasing is dukkha. Not getting what one wants is dukkha. In summary, the five groups subject to clinging, upatana, are all dukkha. Now this, bhikkhu monks, is the noble truth of the origin of suffering, samudaya. It is tanha, craving, which leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, kamaguna, seeking delight here and there, that is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for annihilations. Bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. And now, bhikkhu monks, is the noble truth of nirodha, cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless elimination and cessation of that same craving, that giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-attachment to it. And this, bhikkhu monks, is the noble truth, the way leading to nirodha, cessation of dukkha. It is the eightfold noble path, that is, right view, starting with samadhi, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Further explanation are as follows. Dukkha, in Pali language, translated as suffering, conditions that are difficult to endure, human predicaments. On a more profound level, this truth refers to the state of all conditioned things that are subject to the natural laws of impermanence, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and not self, or classified as or not identified as the self. Conditioned phenomenon are accompanied by pressures, stress, conflict, and obstructions. They are inherently flawed and imperfect. They lack true substance and stability. They are unable to provide lasting satisfaction and contentment. They are consistently prone to cause problems and to create dukkha for someone who attracts to them with clinging. The statement, when someone's attracted with things, when someone holds on to that idea or grasps it without releasing or letting go. It could be anything. Mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically. You can think about it like that. Mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, grasping onto it, holding on to it without releasing it, creates dukkha. Second, samudaya. But the real word here is dukkha samudaya in Pali, translated as the origin, the source of suffering or of craving, which is tanha. Tanha is the negative aspect. If it's the positive aspect, it's called chanta. But we're going to talk about dukkha, samudaya, the origin of the negative aspect of it, which seizes on the belief in self identifies it, establishing this is I. And it presumes to experience and acquire, exist and cease to exist in different circumstances. And the same thing goes mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically. Attaching to the sense of self subjects to the person continue agitation, continue anxiety, yearning, possessiveness, hatred, fear, suspicion, boredom, and other forms of mental affliction. Thus is unable to truly feel at ease, free, and joyous. One does not know happiness that is immaculate and secure. The third is dukkha nirota, or abbreviated to nirota in Pali language, translated as the cessation of suffering, the state reached when one completely eliminates avijja, which means ignorance, and tanha, craving. When one is not influenced, compelled by tanha, craving. One is not obsessed or pressed by anxiety, boredom, or any other form of mental affliction. One is liberated, peaceful, bright, and at ease. Release. One experiences pure happiness. In short, nirota is equivalent to nibbita, nibbana, nirvana. And the same thing goes here. Mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. The fourth is dukkha nirota agamani patipata, but is abbreviated as magga in Pali language, meaning the path, the way, the direction, the path leading, the direction leading to the cessation of dukkha, or suffering, or the direction for the mode of practice for reaching the end of dukkha. So the direction leading to the elimination of dukkha, stress, agitation, and so forth. And here it gives the answers to it is the Noble Eightfold Path. The Supreme Path, consisting of the 8 factors. This path is known as the Majjhima Patipata, the middle way, because it proceeds in a balanced way to the end of suffering without getting stuck or veering towards either of the 2 extremes, either of indulgence in sensual pleasure, kama sukha lakkhaniya yoga, or self-mortification, atta kila atta mata nu yoga, practice of self-torment, or we could say exterior or extreme asceticism. I want to do a quick note that Tudong or Tudanga, monks that are wandering, that's a form of asceticism. And it needs to be noted that that's a form of asceticism. But here it applies to extreme self-mortification. So that's extreme asceticism, either of walking on coals or pain torments or not eating for a long time, or even practicing certain arts and making sure that one can't do this and do that, making extreme asceticism. There's a wide range of this. That's the end of today at the end of page 1897. We will pick up at chapter 19.4 on the 4 Noble Truths and dependent origination, Pati Samutaya. The basically the Four Noble Truths and the laws of causes and effects, the dependent originations, which states that if this occurs, this will happen. If this is eliminated, this will happen, and so forth. Buddha Dhamma